Hi, I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about this book and this guy, Jordan Peterson's parenting approach in 12 Rules for Life. So in this video, we're going to talk about my journey with Jordan Peterson, and then we're going to talk about some of the bits of wisdom as well as the things that maybe I don't like so much that Jordan Peterson shares in this book here. Peterson says that children need skills, and I believe that. He says that there's something called juvenile tyranny. This juvenile tyranny enslaves the entire family, enslaves parents. Now, one of my dislikes is that he often presents the entitlement of parents or the selfish desires of parents as totally normal and good. I don't think they're good. I think the parent needs to work on that. I think that, yes, the child needs to work on their self-government. They definitely need to not be tyrannical. Parents need to keep that in check by doing lots of consistent teaching and having low tolerances. I would say that by and large, what I read in this section of the book looked like low tolerances for parents. The parents would be correcting more, not less. However, he still doesn't believe in micromanaging, so that's good. Right? That's a good balance there. And I think that I agree with him in that respect, even though I definitely know that I could add some more to what he has to say about that by talking about the actual skills that somebody needs. He doesn't spend a ton of time talking about the actual skills that somebody needs. He just presents a really great case for doing deliberate teaching and making sure that children learn skills. Jordan Peterson talks a lot about feelings. I like understanding feelings. That's an important thing, and understanding emotions. But I think he focuses a little bit too much on them sometimes. There is a like and a dislike there. I think that he uses feelings for a rationale for a person's behavior a little bit too often. And like I said before, sometimes the message is go ahead and cater to these negative feelings. And I don't really like that. So that's a dislike. One of my likes is he is against spoiling. Yay, we should not spoil our children, coddle our children. He does not believe in making little tyrants, or he would say little monsters. And I totally agree, although I don't agree with calling children monsters. Peterson believes in persistent praise, meaning that you always show the child when they have done the right thing. This is very helpful. I also believe in praising. I do know from a therapeutic standpoint, working with treatment children and doing therapeutic treatment care for troubled teens, that we really saw greater results when we showed them what they did that was good, more often than talking about what they did that was wrong. But you have to discuss the things that they're doing that are wrong, because they've got to learn those lessons, which means you do have to focus your attention somewhat on finding those good things too. And I'm glad he brings that up. He gives children the benefit of the doubt that they actually do want to succeed. They actually want parents to give them some of those no answers, some of those boundaries, and that they will draw closer to the parents because of that. And I think that's a really great thing too, that he acknowledges, because it is true. Children end up loving you more when you're the one who will stop them from self-destructing. Jordan Peterson wants children and parents to have a bond. He wants the roles to stay in the right place. So to preserve parental authority, that's good. I agree with that. He also wants the child to recognize they are in a learning phase and they've got to learn whether they like it or not. I like that too. That's important. That's part of their role as a learner. But another thing that I really like is that he encourages that in these teaching moments that bonding should be happening, that there shouldn't be this feeling of tearing each other apart that happens when you disagree. He acknowledges disagreements are going to happen in families and that there's got to be a better way to handle them in a way that's a little bit more civilized. I agree with that. Now, he brings up Carl Rogers in his book. I don't love Carl Rogers. He brought some good things to the psychology table and the therapeutic world table, but I also really don't like his history. I don't like the work that he did on non-directive psychotherapy. I would be interested to know if Jordan Peterson actually practices specifically non-directive psychotherapy, because I know he's in the psychotherapy world. Because non-directive psychotherapy has some problems. I have other videos on this channel about that, so be sure to check those videos. So Carl Rogers, I really found out a ton about what he did by studying his colleague, William Colson. In this book, he brings up one of the great things Carl Rogers brought to us, which was how to disagree in a way where you really listen to another person. I do think parents need that. I think everyone needs that. I think that when we're talking to other people, so often what we're doing is we're thinking in our own head about what we want to say, how we can get attention, how we can surface or rise to the top of the conversation that we're having. He exposes that. And he says, how about you listen and really care enough about that other person? Well, there's a whole skill I teach parents and children about this. It's probably everyone's favorite skill, actually. I know for most of the children it's their favorite skill because it's how they get understood and get their way, and it's called disagreeing appropriately. I even have a children's book that teaches that skill, and it's part of my Teaching Self-Government Parenting course. You can find more information about all those skills at teachingselfgovernment.com. He exposes that parents oftentimes don't want to improve, that they just want somebody to validate them in their excuses in their parenting. And I think that's a powerful thing to do. I think it's brave. There are so many things in this book. I could go on for a very long time, and I still wouldn't be able to touch every single thing that he talks about, even with just rule number 5. So I'm going to try to go through things a little bit faster here. If you want more information on these things, any of them that I bring up, then be sure to leave me a comment below. But also, if you've read something in this book that you would like me to discuss further, if you think, what does she think about this? Leave that in the comments too, and I can make another video on that or answer your comments. He exposes that we hurt everyone if we don't fix the problems. So we have to absolutely take the time to fix the problems. He tries to expose that many people think there are no bad children, only bad parents, and that parents are to blame for their child's misbehavior. And I agree that children are not bad, but I do think that some of the behaviors are bad. He actually, though, would say that the children are bad, or at least that's how it came across in here. Maybe that's not accurate, but that's what I sensed as I was reading this. He would say that the parents aren't necessarily bad, but then at other times he seems to almost counter that. So we kind of get both sides of it, but he makes a big point in saying, no, the kids actually do bad things, and parents have got to stop them from that and not put their children up on these pedestals. Now, I like not putting children on a pedestal and not coddling children. I like parents focusing on doing the teaching that they need to for their children and recognizing their children can and do things that are bad. I don't like that the parents are seen sometimes as not having any problems and that they should just give in to their emotions. That one doesn't sit well with me. Probably one of my favorite likes is that he really does believe that the family is enough to do the training for the children, that there don't need to be other experts coming in and messing it up, and that all of the social grooming, the ideological debates and stuff that are happening and swirling around the family are not helping the family do their job, but they're actually probably hurting the family from doing their job. I like that. That is true, and probably a real breath of fresh air for a lot of people. He does not believe that a parent should focus on being a child's friend, but that they should focus on being the child's parent. Oh yes, I like. Let's keep the roles in the right place. That's actually why I wrote an entire book called Roles, The Secret to Family, Business, and Social Success. And it's also a key component in my book, Popular Parenting Methods. So I talk about that as well. He talks a lot about omission, sins of omission, sins of commission. I like this because he talks about how sin means missing the mark. That's a really important distinction to make in the definition of the word sin. But this omission is huge. And he brings up, if you don't talk about something, then you're going to make things worse from omitting information that needs to be out there. And I agree. I think there are times to drop the subject because that's healthy sometimes. But most of the time, you need to discuss something. Parents especially should not be ignoring. And he talks about how that would be considered omission. You're omitting teaching that that child desperately needs. I agree. He does kind of agree with spanking and getting angry at children. I don't really think that that's necessary, especially if you have skills, you have a format in place. He does say that it's an act of responsibility to discipline a child. I actually agree with that. You do need to teach the children cause and effect. That's a responsible thing to do. But he then goes on to say that it's not anger at misbehavior. Well, why do you need to be angry at all? I mean, he does say parents should show their children their emotions. I think be careful about that. I've seen that go really wrong. I think that it's a good thing for parents to show their children calmness the majority of the time. Sure, sorrow, disappointment occasionally is going to be a good thing. You know, showing them you're a human, that you have frustration and stuff. I mean, you're not going to live with someone and not have them see that you're a regular human, of course. I mean, we don't want to be sterile, but we also don't want to dump it on our children because that's not something that they should be carrying around with them necessarily. That's not good for them either. They need to see us as the example for how to handle those situations. We shouldn't be dumping those feelings and emotions at the children. So I kind of have a like-dislike there. It's a little confusing. He gives some great examples about training little children. He talks about training a little child to go to bed, and I remember doing the same kind of things with my children. I think one big thing that I love that he brings up in so many of his examples in this book is that the parent should not give up. They should say, this is a child that needs training. I'm the parent. My job is to give training. I am up for this. I am not going to quit. I'm going to keep giving the training. I'm not going to let the child dominate me with their emotions. I like that. That's good. Now, how he goes about that with some of the methods, I probably would alter a little bit because I like being more deliberate in my actions and using some of my skills. Probably some of my biggest dislikes were that occasionally it comes across in this book that he is endorsing power struggling, like the spanking and stuff like that, and that he feels like a parent needs to power struggle. I don't think you need to engage in a power struggle. I think you can stay in a calm, okay place, a self-governed place where you're standing on principle and you have peace with you while you're actually helping a person who's going out of control. I don't think you have to emotionally react to that child. And I think that sometimes when you do, it actually eggs the child on. It fills the child with this sense of false power. In fact, I've seen that time and time again as I've worked with families and brought troubled youth into my home and who are big time power strugglers, right? The best thing is for them to see, I'm fighting myself, I'm not fighting you. So I don't agree with parents fighting or power struggling with their children, but he does present that that's kind of okay sometimes. And then probably one of my other dislikes, it's the biggest dislike, is that he really does focus on the emotional entitlement of the parents a bit. Sometimes encouraging them to overcome it, but then other times almost suggesting that it's okay for them to be a bit emotionally entitled. So the tone, I mean, he's a witty guy, a little sarcastic, so his sarcasm comes through. I don't profess to have listened to everything he's ever done or read everything he's ever done. So I can't say I know exactly every time when he's just being silly sarcastic, but sometimes that sarcasm comes through as being disingenuous or maybe even pointing somebody down a direction of selfishness, which I don't think is what he's trying to do, because I think that his whole message is, hey, stop being so selfish, you know? I think that's a big thing. I think overall Rule 5 is intended to boost parent confidence. And I like that. 2 thumbs up. I think that's a really great thing. He wants parents to be consistent, to not be intimidated by their children, to have increased confidence as they move forward in parenting. Basically, he wants them to actively parent. What he's saying is if you don't actively parent, you're actually going to have a bad life. It's going to haunt you forever. He even talks about how important it is to do so much of this active parenting before age 4 or up through age 4 when they're tiny. So many parents say, well, I'll wait till there's a real problem. That's just a little thing. He says, no, get on it. Train them when they're little. And I agree with that. 2 thumbs up. So overall, I would say Jordan Peterson has made a great work here with the 12 rules for life. But I will say that there's some things that I think I could add to that with the skills and the principles of self-government that I teach. I think for the most part, we're on the same page. I really honor him, admire his wisdom. His method of articulation is really good the majority of the time. He comes across as a person who truly does care and wants to understand. I think that's important. I think he's trying to help people. In fact, I've met enough people who've told me about him or, hey, have you read his stuff, that I know he is helping people get some ahas that they need for life. I do think that maybe more tangible skills could help. That's where I come in, but maybe the two of us, are kind of like a team in that respect. Not that I've ever met him before, so don't get me wrong. Anyway, I hope you'll read this book if it's something you like reading about psychology and such, or that this was interesting to you. If you would like to learn more about teaching self-government, there is a great class. It's a full-length class that's here on this channel, and it's called The Not-So-Known Secret for Parenting Success. And it will give you some insights into the skills and principles that I've just briefly mentioned here.